me stop share for a minute. I need to fix something. I hope it's all going well, everyone. Make sure I have my subtitles going for everyone. Right, doing good. There we go. All right, good. We are well. We are working all right on full steam today. All right. So welcome everyone as we get into today's topic. Hopefully everyone is well. Everyone knows our mission statement. Today we're really going to just talk about looking at our GT services and having access to those. I know a lot of everyone has completed their identification. Yeah, it's May. Everyone's pretty much completed identification. Now it's thinking about making sure those kids have access to services and when those start, and really looking at how we look at our programs and looking at some of our numbers. Always have an opportunity for question and answer, our data share, our district share outs and happenings. Hopefully everyone is well. Wellness check, how you're doing? Everybody ready for the year to be over? Ready to start out signing those new contracts for the next year? How's it going? Getting ready for training? My chat is empty this morning. Wow. Hopefully it's going well out there. I know everyone might be a little tired. Good morning. Yeah, thank you, Amber. And while we're, I just want to do a special shout out to Amber Reinecke from Region 13, who actually on the slide assists me. She does co-hosting capabilities with me on these lately, and she is always fast on the fix to drop into the chat any links. So thank you very much, Amber. Appreciate you and all of your support in making GT Tuesdays kind of run smoothly. As you know, I state definition and what we're looking for. And so really looking at how are we serving kids and really looking at those processing. That's what we're going to talk about today. So let's come more into our state goal and really looking at that demonstration of skills and how we're making sure our kids are there. And then once we look at our numbers and make sure they stay in our programs. And so, as you know, we have one more GT Tuesday to go, and that is next, the 17th. I want to say it's the 17th. Yes, so today is the last morning edition. We will have one more afternoon edition, and you know, that's the one I typically end the year with Q&A, questions, just reflections. And so we're almost there. And my friend Paulina Van Eden Hill, I know she is on this morning. So ready for your update?
Awesome. Thanks, Monica. Good morning, everyone. I'm Paulina Van Eden Hill, your Executive Director of the Texas Association for the Gifted and Talented. Monica or Amber, I'd love to be able to share my screen if you are able to do that, feel comfortable with that. TAGT is your professional organization, and hopefully this is not the first time we are seeing each other. I know it's towards the end of the year, and a lot of you are changing hats. And so I wanted to make sure that you were aware of a couple of things that are happening in the last few months of the year. I'm going to share my browser. Please don't judge me on the number of tabs that I have open. All right, so coming up most quickly, that's not a word, is our Gifted Plus Equity Conference. It's happening June 5th through the 7th in Denton at the Embassy Suite. So we've got an amazing program for you. There's going to be 3 mastermind sessions, which is what we call our keynotes. If you've been around even for just a little bit in gifted and talented education, you've heard of Colin Seal. He's going to do our first mastermind session, and he's focusing on tangible equity. This is going to be kind of a workshop, so you're going to be able to create a plan for some equity focused work that you want to do in your district in the next year. And then later that afternoon, we've got Dr. Juan Carrillo speaking about being the gifts of being kind of an underserved community. It's probably not the best way to say that, but he's going to be amazing as well. And then on the next day, on Tuesday, we're going to have a mastermind focused on this book called Culturally Responsive Teaching and Gifted Education. And we have this incredible panel here with Dr. Collins, Dr. Fugate, Cecilia Boswell, and Erin Fears Floyd, who has been really active nationally. So and Javetta, one of our own here as well. So we're really excited about this panel. It's going to be incredible. Breakouts are going to be, if you've submitted a breakout, your letter of status letter is going to go out this week or already has, and then we'll post breakouts here very soon. Registration is open for this event, and you can find all the information here. We're really pumped to be able to offer field trips this year. This was an idea that came out of some of our steering committees. We've got 2 scheduled for Tuesday afternoon. Once the full conference wraps up, you have the opportunity to stay and experience 2 different field trips. One is the Quakertown Quandaries, and we'll go to a museum of African American history in Denton, and then not just be able to experience a museum, but also learn about how to use your own community history and cultural history to have really enriching experiences for your gifted students. And then the other field trip will visit Paul Quinn College, which is an HBCU, and they've got an incredible program over there. And they're actually partnered with Dallas ISD, where they're creating 2 schools on their campus to make sure that everybody can see themselves in a college graduate and a college student. This is going to be an amazing, both of these are going to be amazing experiences. And so if you have time to stay on Tuesday, we definitely think you should. Any questions on that? I see a couple chats, let me make sure. Awesome, thanks. Thanks, Amber, for posting that. Okay. The other event that we want to make sure that you're aware of is our new coordinator boot camp. And this is for anybody who's kind of had the gifted hat passed to them in the last couple of months, or maybe will over the summer. So if you're not new, maybe keep in mind this for someone in your community that might be kind of being given the GT services or being hired right now. It's on Monday, August 1st, and you can register on our website. This program is basically stewarded by our Emerging Leaders program, which is our annual mentorship program. And so these emerging leaders have just kind of come off their first 1 to 3 years of being a coordinator. And so it's very fresh on their minds as to what they wish they knew. So we'll spend a few hours together on August 1st going over what you need to have, what you need to know, where you can find it. And it's been a really successful program. This, I think, will be the 3rd year. So we're really excited to be able to offer that again. And then the last thing I wanted to remind you all of, I think I talked about this last time we met, is that we launched, hopefully you know about Tempo Plus, which is our resource hub, where it's peer-reviewed and really peer-created resources to help you do your jobs better and your educators do their jobs better and meet the needs of gifted students. We have district subscriptions available if you would like to make our resources available to your full district or parts of your district. Even we've got a group who has an unlimited license and they're making articles available to their parents, which is really cool. We did create with a group of your peers a 6-hour update guide. So if you are looking to create kind of a 6-hour kind of self-paced program, we wanted to make sure that you were able to find some really quick and easy resources. So we started with 3 areas: differentiation, social emotional learning, and equity. And once your people have access to Tempo Plus, so if they're already TAGT members, they do have access automatically. And then if you would like to explore a district subscription, you can email me and I'll help you with that. But we basically give you, here's a bunch of courses and articles in this area, pick a few, and then there's some reflection guides and some kind of group application exercises that will be helpful to kind of continue the conversation and really hopefully apply the learning. So kind of taking the idea that a lot of you do with book studies over the summer, that kind of thing, we're just offering a couple of different ways that you can get that learning and then reflect on it. I'll make sure that any links are that Amber hasn't been able to put in are in the chat. And if there's any questions, I'm really excited to answer them. And again, if you're new to this role and we haven't met before, I'd love for you to direct message me or email me. I'm gonna have to hop off here, but I'll put my email in the chat. And I'd love to connect and make sure that we know each other and that we're staying in touch as you are getting used to your new role.
Thank you, Paulina. All right. As we get into today, our conversation, just want to talk about a little bit about student services and how you service your students. And one thing is I know a lot of you have already got your summer programming planned, but if some of you are like, what is another option, or thinking about that, or what you can do with your kids or your programs, really looking at that in school and when possible out of school options relevant to the students' areas of strength. So really thinking during the entire school year and beyond. I know when you look at program intent code 21, it says no summer school, but you can still consider some enrichment activities, things that are building our students over the summer, if that is an option for you, or something to think about, and maybe in 2023, as you think about next school year and planning and building. And so really thinking, not just the regular school, summer school. So that's a no, but you're building out an enrichment program, you're building out some activities for your students over the summer. As you know, everyone's talking learning whilst, building and accelerating. Those are some things that you can also consider for our DT students, as you're looking at it. Just don't call it summer school, change your title. It's an enrichment program, it's a, enrichment camp, something different as we look at that. And so when we think also about our accountability standards and really looking at our, what are we asking about, looking at our data. And this is a good time as you are, rolling out, you finished your testing, you finished all your scores, to really kind of start reflecting on what is your data telling you? What are those sources? What is your measures telling you about the students that you have identified in preparing to serve or are serving? Are your assessments still working? Are you still pulling in the students that you're looking for? Or is it time to start reconsidering? And, it's not during the school year when you think about it, it's really kind of going into it, or is it time to really think about how do we change up our program? What does it mean when we're looking at, and did we have access for all of our students to assessment? So were there pockets of students missing? What was out there that was different this year? And because really, as we look at our last few years, you got to take into the conversation of, we're still rolling out of COVID. So we're really kind of moving back into either we've changed up our measures, we've changed up the way we tested students. Really, what does that look like now as we go into the next level and phase of this? And so what does that reflective population look like? How close are we to the total district in our campus? And part of that is going to our conversation of equity and access to gifted education. So really how can we expand our access to our services? So, because as you remember, when our PEAMS reporting, it's not just those who have been identified. So you might have a lot of students sitting there on the identification table, but how many of them are actually identified and being served? And then when do services start and how do services reflect back? So those are our conversation pieces today. And I know a lot of you've seen this report, and then we got some new people on. This is a national report put out by Purdue. You can have the link there if you want to screenshot that. I didn't know it was on timer. So basically, this is a report card for everyone on access, equity, and misgivingness. And Marsha Gentry did a great job of explaining this a couple of years ago at NAGC. And also, when she came to TAGT and had that conversation here. But when you look at the report card and you look at the national report card, and as a nation, we are pretty much a D on access, and Texas is an A because we do have access to our DT. That is part of our law. All kids have access and are to be identified if they are eligible. But where we, and I'm gonna move to the next slide so that you can see the report card here, but we get a big F in equity of access between our Title I and our non-Title I schools. And that's really where all those students sitting, when you look at our data and our numbers, it goes beyond just identification, as I said earlier. It goes into where are these students sitting? And so how are we, where are we looking? What are our, our downfalls? Where are our pits? And then really asking the question, what are you looking at? I can look at state numbers all the day long and really try to break down what some of the things where we can, move into it. But you as the local, as the state, the foot on the road, what are you doing differently? What are you doing to say how we are pulling in kids? And as you look at the rest of the report card, because we look at very good part of our access, but then when we look at our equity piece, there's so much F's out there, and there's and it varies across our state, our region, and it looked at all capacities as our cities, our suburbs, our towns, and our rural areas. And as you see, we got some D's, we got some A's out there, no B's, and so as we move forward, how do we really start looking at how can we improve our numbers? How can we get to the next level? Where are our gaps? Where are our local gaps to help us get to the next step? And so really just taking time to, have you really thought about your own local numbers? Have you really looked at what does it mean? How are you identifying students? How many students are being served? How many students are being furloughed? How many students are transferring out? Looking at your equity numbers, looking at how many are exiting from your program. So really, are those the kind of conversations you're having at the end of the year when you start looking to see what's happening and doing a reflection of your, and it's not necessarily an evaluation, but it could be an evaluation piece as you look at those numbers. So before I move to looking at our own state numbers currently, because this is pretty much probably more 2016 data, because always national data is a little behind. Are there any questions, wonderings, comments? I'm gonna take that as a no, and I think y'all are ready to see the state numbers. All right, so here's our state numbers. These are what our enrollment numbers for 2021-22 looks like. And when you look at the state count and the GT count and the percentages here. And for those who are like, oh, let me capture this. Hopefully, I haven't received the email yet, but this should be on the website currently, or at least by the end of the day, if you can go check it out if you want. It should be updated. All of the videos up to today are updated and put on. So, but the PowerPoint is there. So if you want to capture this, you can. So looking at our state numbers and looking how reflective we are. And I know all of you have heard about the equity formula and that 20%. And looking at our numbers, what are your ahas, your wonderings for anyone just want to step out? As we look at us as a state. You can drop it in the chat. Okay, Devin. So the equity formula for a couple of, I'm not even sure how long ago it was, probably probably around 2016, 2014, 2016, somewhere in there. Chicago was under a school district that was being reviewed for their misidentification. Well, I wouldn't say misidentification. It might be misidentification or non-identification of all of their student population, specifically their Hispanic students. So if you all know or have heard of Donna Ford, Dr. Ford came up with a formula that a lot of districts use and states use to look at their populations, and from that court order they started this formula. So really looking at this formula of 20%, and then you'll get a little bit more info. Thank you. I know that was Amber who put it in the chat. It is also on our equity and GT equity website, kind of a breakdown on the formula and how to use the formula to really look at how reflective is your population. We will never say we're over-identified, but we know that there are some areas that identify higher than others. So basically that 20% is what that kind of that range where your district, your state numbers and your GT numbers should be close together. So really looking like our American Indian and our Alaska Native, 0.3, 0.0, 0.3 and 0.3, we're pretty much on par on our identification of those students. Where our Asian students, we're actually identifying 11.8%. If we were looking at the equitable distribution of that, we should be around 3.9. We're not going to go in and say, let's start removing students from our Asian students. It's just, this is just something to be aware of. As a state, we're identifying 11.8. And then as you're looking for our African-American students, we're just, as a state, we're around 6.5%, where we should be looking at more at 10.2. So really looking at that. Our Hispanic, 41.5 compared to 42.2. So, we're not that off, but there are certain places where we are. Where our two or more, we got there 3.4, and then our white students 36.4 to 21.0%. So it's really just kind of looking at those numbers there. And it's really just taking an opportunity to just think, this is what the state is looking at and how their percentages are of what those populations are. So it's looking at your state percentage per your GT percentage and really coming up with that formula. All right. Oh, okay. So Holly, I'm just jumping into the chat to see. Right. So I see Holly this looks like your district, and pretty much this is straightforward what we are as a state.
Yeah, these numbers look very much like our district on over on Asian, maybe not as much. We don't have as many white students, but we're still over-identified for white students. We're over-identified for Hispanics, but they make up more than 3/4 of our population, so they probably should be more, more predominant. But yeah, for African American students, we've been really working on that number. We're almost at 7%, so from 4.85 to almost 7. So we've been kind of whittling away at it. But as you identify kids, you're also identifying students in the other groups as well. So it's like incremental changes. So
there you go, incremental changes. That is what we're looking for. Oh, thank you. I think is that Kelsey? Yeah, thank you, Kelsey, for putting that journal article in. That kind of goes a little bit more in depth in her formula and the equity. So it's just, another way to look at your numbers, to look at when you think of ethnicity, and as you look at who are you bringing in, and really looking at also who's remaining in our programs, who's staying there, who, because you do all of this to get them in, but how are you keeping them there? And really looking at that, because they still have to perform and perform at the level that we're looking for. But if you did some accommodations, are you still doing those accommodations when they're in the program? So the other piece I always like to share, and as you know, this year our numbers kind of changed because our reporting added in emerging bilingual and EL. But I also wanted to look at, we have other POPs. So are we looking at our other students also? Our military connected students have been increasing. They did a major jump from last year to this year. I think last year we were identified by 8,000 something, almost 9, and you see we're at 15. So really looking at, but all of these numbers are increasing except for one, which is our migrant student population. But our state numbers for migrant students have been decreasing also. Our foster students has always been our lowest population with the, of identified, and it's not, it's one of those things I'm wondering about why. Is it because they are transient, or is it that we're just not getting them in those windows? I think that's something we need to investigate, is why we're not pulling those kids in. As I said, our migrant is low. Homeless is slowly trickling. I've been working with our homeless specialists here at the state and doing presentations for them. So they're also working on their side and looking at those numbers of why their students not being identified and picked up. As you see, our ESL bilingual is still increasing. Our SPED is increasing. Our dyslexic is still moving forward. So we're still moving in those areas. And so any wonderings or anything that you can help me think about on as we look at these populations and kind of put it out, figure out something. So as we finish, as we think about your numbers and you think about your populations, and I was at ACID last week, and so I just put it out there. If you're thinking about, what can we do to really start thinking, how can we improve, how we can do something different, really start looking at really doing some of those data digs in your areas and in your districts, if you have not. Really look at, when you look at your tests, also look at how does that affect your homeless students when your testing window is out there, your foster kids, how many, what are we looking at? When are we not identifying? When are referrals out? Is it very clear to people? So as we go into those things, because, one of the things is our downfall is the only data we have as a state is on the program options and our enrollment numbers. So, really thinking, what is our next step? How do we get more identification out there? How do we really look at progress? How do we look at that? And so really trying to find some different levels of accountability. So that throws it out to question and answers. Anyone got questions out there? This is a good time. We got moments, we got time. I'm open. And I'm looking at the chat. If the video is not up there yet, give it to midday. Hopefully they'll be live and ready. I did it this morning, so we'll see. But questions, wonderings?
Monica, I have a question for you. This is Yolanda from Irving ISD. Yes. So how do other districts get evaluated as far as, how it's part of our state plan to evaluate our program, what exactly do you recommend that we look at?
Well, to answer that question, I think one, you have to think as you look at your program overall, and as you step into it, do you want to overall just, let's take a state plan and just kind of do a high level of, are we in compliance, are we out? Of looking at the accountability standards. And that could be done something locally, and then what are those pieces? Or are you looking for a deeper dive into a certain section of the state plan or a certain section of a piece of that? Because there's a lot that can be done, and there's a lot, there's 6 sections of the state plan, and there's a lot of accountability standards out there. And it really, it might behoove you to think, what is our area that we need to work on this moment? And looking at that. And so it might really just start with as I said, the overarching, let's just look at the state plan. Where do we fall? Are we in compliance? Or are we out? And then thinking, okay, these are the areas we're out of compliance. And what can we work on? What is an immediate? What is a long-term? And what is, I'm gonna just call it a super long-term, because some things are going to be a multi-phase piece as you go into it. But then also looking at, and depending on where you are and what your goals are, if there is a piece that you're saying, okay, we're here at accountability, but we're almost this baby step away from being exemplary. How do we get to that next step, to the exemplary level? So it really just says, what are we looking to do? And then what is your district's goals? And I will kind of look at, how do you apply both of those together? What is your district goals? How does it, how does that fit into the state plan? Really looking at, how do we meet law? How do we get there? And it might be really thinking, going back to family and community, it might be, we really need to up how we communicate about our program and what people know about our program, to build in that viability to get to the next phase of another section of the state plan. Or it might be really, while you're upping your family community involvement on conversations of what our program looks like, but also doing that internally with your coworkers in curriculum, your coworkers in assessment, your friends in finance, so they understand what's going on, so that when you say, we need to sit down as we do our curriculum over the summer, I need a GT partner in that realm, so that they can up and put those different pieces, those different strategies in the curriculum that we're going to put out. Or as you're working, this is the scope and sequence, this is going to be our GT scope and sequence. So it's all flowing together, and it's not an extra piece, but it's that overlay. It's that, that piece that's we're working together, and then everyone is not one against each other. I'll put it that way. But then others also, that's where they pull in their ESCs or those contractors to say, come in and do a program review. Or they pull in an advisory committee. And then with those advisory committees, you got to remember, sometimes they are just a one and done kind of thing, where you're pulling them in and you got your community, your parents, and some of your educators, just to look at your program from a different eye. And it's not just you, to say, this is what we're looking for. How do you see it? What are you seeing? And how is it evident? And what is those evidence pieces? And I think that's going to be, sometimes that's the hard part for people, especially when you're looking at those services in the classroom. What is the evidence piece of that? Did that help? And then if someone else wants to say how you do it, please step in and share.
I have another second part to this. Sorry. So thank you, because that's exactly what we've done in the past, what you just mentioned. But where would you put the STAR data or into that? How would that, because that's one of the things that they're having us we've always looked at the equity, at the family, all the other things, pretty much what you mentioned. But now they're wanting us to look at the STAR data. So where would that fit? How would you recommend we go there?
So I would say look at your STAR data. Well, STAR data is going to be very limited, as this is going to be really just their mastery of a certain area. But I would say the hard part about STAR data is you got to pull so much, because it's not just part of the report of our taper reports or any of that, and so it's going to be hard. But STAR data is available for our GT students. But I would say start looking at those mastery, non-mastery, who meets, and what does that look like, and probably do more of a longitudinal study. And why I say that is because, as we know, our third graders, they did this in third grade. What did they do at fourth grade? And looking at those kids, and is there growth? And asking that kind of question, is there growth for these kids? Or are they still maintaining the mastery level? Because they still got to keep maintaining that or move to the next level. There's really no next level after they get mastered. But are they still moving forward and not just looking grade level to grade level? So third graders did it this year. So it's really kind of looking at those kids individually as they go into it. And then probably looking at some other test data also, but then also looking at, because I think it's probably going to pull in, the next one is the report card grades. Is really looking at, are these students, and it might be something that you have to phase in as a part of your process, or ask your IT people to make you a dashboard or something where you can start collecting these kind of data pieces to say, over long term, this is how our students are performing. This is their STAR. This is, these are the pieces, and really looking at those 4 core and building out of, this is where our kids are moving fast and furious. Some of that will also buy into why you should accelerate for a certain grade level or certain programs or subject areas, or get more subject specific, and to look at that. And so I think those are really some of the things you got to look at as you go into it. STAR is going to be one of those real fluctuating, and as we move into this new realm of our online testing, it might be very good to okay, how do we flex? And then I will also say, if you're taking STAR data, also look at any of these students also being coded as at risk, and what is your dropout number, and how many of them is your graduation numbers. So really looking at all of those pieces of how many GTs or students are graduating, how many of them are dropouts, how many of them are at risk, and putting all those indicators together so that it's a bigger picture than just academics. As you know, what our kids is going to be more than just academics.
So another thing, so one of the reasons why she's asking is because here in Irving ISD, they've kind of upended our GT math acceleration due to pandemic data. But part of the reason why there's a little bit of panic, and the data that we have is after pandemic data, right, is because the state now, if you have advanced test takers in middle school, so if I take my Algebra 1 test in middle school, but I don't meet whatever is meets or masters, and they're kind of arbitrary scores that have been developed for SAT or ACT, then the high school doesn't get that point for that kid. So we're experiencing a little bit of problems with that. So just, if anybody from your PER department asks you about that, they've been put on notice about it, so they're panicking a little bit.
Polly, is this above and beyond what about the federal testing requirement for SAT? I'm not familiar with this one. So where is this new?
There is a link somewhere. If you just Google SAT, ACT equivalencies for meets and masters, it'll pop up. It's from the state. So it's for advanced level testers is another thing that you can search for. So yes, this goes above and beyond like TSI, CCMR requirements. So for them to be approaches, meets, and masters, there are cut scores for those levels. So, but if they took like a biology test in middle school, their only chance is ACT science. So they look at those scores to determine if kids get that point. Well, last year we had a whole group of kids who had to like come up to the school to take the test. Well, there was a bunch that didn't. So we don't even have scores for them officially because they didn't come to SAT school day or ACT school day. So yeah, so then they got into some of the STAR data and things like that, and they're using pandemic data to make changes because they're panicked. So they pretty much told them how we would score based on some of that data for this year, but they said, but it doesn't count for this year. So they're a little nervous about that. But what they should really be nervous about is the basic CCMR. I'm just saying. So I don't think it really has anything to do with gifted kids or acceleration. So
thanks for that clarification. But yeah, okay. And I will try to get some more.
So in some urban districts, it may cause a problem. So, especially where you have a high number of Title I schools, it's going to be something if your evaluation and research department hasn't become aware of it, they will if you have acceleration in your district where those kiddos take tests. And then they start looking longitudinally, and then they find all the issues ever that happened with scheduling kids and kids that we placed in algebra who were actually okay. They're not the ones we were worried about. And then you've got the pandemic data that's in there because they failed the course or failed part of a semester of a course, and it was in the middle of the pandemic. They were remote. So yeah, it's really interesting. We had a lot of kids who are currently seniors who are GT who are in a senior level math class, and so that raised a lot of red flags. But it's also a counseling issue. Nobody told them, hey buddy, I know you don't want to take calculus BC, but you might want to take a stats class, right? So there's some other issues as well that are there. So it's not because they were accelerated in math that they didn't take it. So
all the things that comes to light out there. So we just try to do our jobs. All right. Okay. Any other questions? Wondering? I saw a question. The link for the report card. Definitely. Anyone want to share what's going on in their district?
So we're very excited to finally be adding some GT instructional coach support for our elementaries. And we're going to have to develop from scratch everything, pull out curriculum and everything. So if anybody has any great ideas for where we can start with that process, that would be much appreciated. If you would like to send that to me, I'd really appreciate it, because we're really starting from ground zero. But we're excited about it, and it's going to be a great benefit for our students.
Did you drop your email in? Oh,
Yes, I'll do that right now.
All right, thank you. Oh, so going back to the questions. So when I mentioned the other data pieces, when you look at your evaluation, I mentioned graduation rate, your dropout rate, and the third was your at-risk populations. Because some of our students are going to may be identified also at risk just because of certain indicators in their life and things that are going on. So, and then pretty much you can find a lot of that data. Some of it's going to be a little on our website, if not in your local, because there's things that are collected beyond our enrollment numbers. And so, but just work with you can also work with your research and evaluation, because those are numbers that are out there, or your PEIMS, well, your PEIMS people also. On that also, because as we come into June, also remember that is an opportunity to also to clean up any PEIMS data that's out there. So if you got a late start on Kinder and it was not done by March 1st, it can still be updated by June. So really thinking, what do you need to clean up? What do need to be fixed? You got that opportunity to do that. Any other shout outs, happenings, any other job opportunities out there? Because you never know, someone might be looking. Opportunity to transition. All right. You can always drop it in the chat or come off mute. So as we wrap up this season, and I'm gonna drop this link in the chat, asking for you to assist me in participating in a survey and to actually help me improve. And this is an open opportunity. Link. So if you'll take a moment and just copy the link when you get an opportunity. It's about a 5-minute survey. Short answer is all special populations monitoring is using this. Find my name. Just kind of help me out in my leadership to know how well I'm doing. I'm the sole person out here, what's going on. So thank you for just taking the opportunity to do that. And I saw a question in the chat as I was doing that. Specific link to the report card. Let me go back to, I can't remember, but I want to say, try the QR code if someone's looking for the direct link to the report. The report has, when you go to that page, and let me go to the internet. You should be able to find that also there. Changed up. So if you go to using this, go to the research, I want to say. 1 minute. Huntley. If not, I can. All right. There's a better link for you. Once you get there, scroll down, you'll see the national report cards. You can find the nation, and you can go for all the individual states. And so it is an interesting read and to see that we are, for you never like to see an F, but we got some A's and some spots. And so having that will, that's that. But and just a few reminders. Actually, this Friday is the Title III Parent and Family Event. So hopefully you got some parents dropping into that from 9 to 2. And then this summer is the Hybrid Symposium. Once again, as another opportunity to reach out to study. Actually, I will be presenting there in both hats, working GT and gift and child abuse prevention. And also, if you want to look at acceleration and be a part of a study, the National Center for Research on Gifted Ed has that opportunity coming, that's still available for you to look at. They're trying to reach out to 30 to 45 schools, and it would be great to have someone in Texas be a part of that. So we can see what the numbers are looking like. And then also Purdue is looking at their summer camps for their youth. And so registration is open to the end of the month, and it's for grades 5 through 12. So that is another opportunity to support your students or to just let them be aware, this announcement on your website. And finally, our gifted ed, our equity and gifted ed website, take an opportunity to check it out. If you have any announcements, please send them my way. I will be wrapping up and really sending out a final newsletter coming up. So if you got some job postings looking for a GT coordinator, or if you're, some happenings, you got some great things, you had your fairs, anything you want to announce, to share, please send that my way. I will put it in the website because I know some of you remembered it from last year. Actually highlighted a couple of programs with their student work and their fairs. So take that opportunity. All right, thank you, Melissa. And here's my contact information. And so if there are no further questions, wonderings, happy Mother's Day, all my mothers. Once again, happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your services. Reminder, our last one is on May 17th, and hope to see you there. If you got questions you want to send beforehand, please do. And if not, have a great day, everyone.